Hi everybody and welcome. I'm your instructor John Pomeroy and this lesson is about how to draw the cartoon eye. Yeah, this is going to be a fun lesson. Cartoon eyes, there's also all sorts of shapes and sizes. Now we just did the lesson on how to draw a realistic eye. That information can be coming in handy as far as the structure and the placement and the proportion that can be applied to a cartoon eye, whether you're drawing a princess or a hero or a villain. It'll all come in handy. In this particular class, we'll talk about all kinds of different combinations of shapes, how to apply that to the emotional content of the character, attitudes, all kinds of wonderful information. So let's get started. So, like the realistic eye, we have a basic eye shape. Now with cartoon eyes, it could be a little more exaggerated because it is a cartoon. So let's just start. Imagine there's an eye line right here. There's a nose somewhere out here. Side of the head. And then we have a brow over the eye. So we'll have a basic lid. We have the body of the eye. You could have a slight wrinkle or an indication of where that lower lid might be. We have some lashes. Now with masculine characters in the cartoon existence, eyelashes aren't too prominent. It's just basically a dark shape, a darker border that outlines the top lid. Then we'll have a slight wrinkle here for the top lid. And then a shape, usually thicker at the base where it starts near the nose, and then tapers back slightly. And that works for either masculine or feminine characters. With masculine characters, it might be a little bit thicker. Might be just a touch thicker, depending on the type of character that you're doing. So this would be your basic eye. We have the iris. And then we have a pupil with a highlight in it. And the iris would be colored in with whatever color that character has. I would do a cast shadow sometimes. In animation, they sometimes will leave this out or they'll put it in to give the illusion of more depth. And like I was saying, so a male character would just be a nice thick line. Female character may involve some nice eyelashes, both top and bottom. And that's your basic cartoon eye. Brows can be, like I talked about in the realistic eye lesson, brows can be thin. Brows can be heavy and massive. You can have a brow thick and thicker as this, as thick as you want it. Eye underneath. So there's all kinds of different formulas and combinations, but the normal eye is like that. Okay, so and this is the fun part of doing cartooning eyes because it's the art of exaggeration. You can go as far as you want. Let's try some different eye shapes. There's all kinds of different shapes to work with. Now let's say if we had a cartoon character, big forehead, nice round cheeks, little nose. We'll do the median line right there, the eye line down here, Large forehead. I would place the ears maybe just a little bit lower, right about there. There's a rough head. So the eye line is right about there. We can place the eyes close together and have very long, elongated eyeballs. This is a type that was used by a lot of classic cartoon characters in the 40s and 50s. Raised eyebrow, small eyebrow with a couple of wrinkles at the top, maybe some stubble hair, and then you have equally long pupils. With a highlight. Maybe 2 eyelashes. Couple more wrinkles, cheek lines. So that shape there would be a fun shape to squash and stretch in animation. So if we take that shape, this is wide open, where the eye is open completely wide, expanded. Let's take that same idea, that same shape, and we would squash it. We'll squash the cheeks together. We'll squash the nose shape. We'll take full advantage of the elasticity of the character, where everything is pinched inward. And that eye gets closed shut like this. There's the nose. There's the eyelid. Get a couple of lashes showing. We see the pinched shape being contracted, coming in together from this to this. In some types of old style cartoons, they would put a highlight on the actual eye. Back in the day, it was thought that would give it some more depth, make it kind of shiny too. So that's the squeezed version, the squeezed shape of the elongated eye. And those are eyes that are long. They kind of taper out a little bit. So if you start at the nose, you have a shape that gets a little bit wider at the top. And then you have an equally long pupil. No iris, just a pupil. So that's one version of a cartoon eye. Here's another one. Bulging eyes. We'll do a bulging eye example here. You have a character. Let me draw it in the center of the page here. Nose, median line. There's the eye line again. We have a character with large, bulging eyes. Now this could be a big iris or a big pupil. I'm just going to make it a pupil with a big highlight in it. Two or three eyelashes. Small but thick eyebrow. Give it a little hair. So that could be an innocent little look for a character, almost a baby. I'll make the nose even smaller. shade the cheeks a little bit. So that can be like an infant look. And it also could be kind of a, a goofy look too. There's all kinds of different sizes and shapes that you can get with eyebrows. You can get, like I said, the elongated eye. With the pupil. You can get crazed eyes where if you have that round eye version can be even accentuated more. Make them a little bit older. Larger pupils. We can also accentuate the idea that it's got slightly crazed look by adding another line outside of that line. There's iris. So you're getting a little more graphic drama with those eyes being placed where this character is either terrified or something is happening to him emotionally that's causing his eyes to radiate these extra lines from the center of the pupil and iris. If I take, going back to the this infant eye, you can get a sneaky look with the brows. The brows can come down and what you want to do, this is almost like a facial mask, this portion of the eye. It's very important. Imagine a mask on the face. There's the nose, there's the mouth, there's the head, here's the eyes. Imagine the mask defining the arrangement of the eyes to the eyebrows. They almost radiate out from the nose. Now this is in the cartoon sense. But as far as a design for readability, it's really good to think in terms of this whole area and this portion of the head like a mask that you can squash and stretch. So here it's squashing. We've squashed that mask shape. And all the elements, there's the nose, everything is squashed together. Or you can stretch that mask for the character to be surprised. So you think of that shape where the eyes sit in on top of the nose as a shape, a unit that you can squash and stretch. So with that in mind, let's create from this little infant head with the great big eyes, let's create something that says sneaky. So we'll bring the eyebrows down, we will bring it and raise it on one side. So this mask is squashed on one side a little bit more right here and opened up. They're both pinched, but one is a little bit more than the other. And then we got an eye glancing off to the side. Can you see how that creates a fun dynamic? And likewise with the nose, everything is pinched on this side. But opened up on this side. Pinched over here, contracted, pinched together, but opened up on that side. You get a nice dynamic with the face. So here you get an eye that's looking over. It's either angry or slightly sneaky, looking over. So there's another, great combination of shapes that you can use. Let's try. Also, I want to just a quick point about there are different eyes for different uses, whether it's comics or animation. I know that with an anime, there's a certain style of eye that I have seen that it's very rounded and has a very definite highlight that comes in to the eye to make it wet. That's another form of eye too. And the eyelashes can be extremely exaggerated in shape and in design. Cast shadow. So there's all types of different eyes that are fun to use. I've seen eyes that are triangular in shape with a highlight, perfectly round with highlight. All different types of shapes. Now the female eye is if we were doing say like a princess character. Let's do, we have the eye line, we've got the actual eye. And remember with female characters, I said you want to kind of keep them slightly tilted. It is almost like an almond shape, slightly tilted. We have the side of the head, we've got the nose right there, we've got, let's see, I'll draw a quick nose, the part of a lip right there, cheek, and then a nice, lovely rounded brow. The brow expresses emotions as well as frames the eye itself and presents the eye. Large, flowing eyelashes. Have a slight indication of a lid. I'll shade the bottom of this just to give it some depth. Maybe a few little bottom lashes also. And we have a cast shadow of the lid. It gives it that extra depth. We have the slight little indication of the bottom lid. Not much, if you have it at all. Sometimes it's probably better to leave it out. Have a large, nice iris. And then a pupil. Highlight. And then the iris having some color or tone coming into the iris. I'm going to accentuate these lashes even more and darken the eyebrow just a little bit. So there we have a nice female eye. And from the side, in profile, we have the facial plane, we have the forehead, nose. There's the eye line right there. There would be the placement of the eye right about there, seated into the head. Eyebrow would overlap that just a little bit. It would have hairline. So that brow would wrap almost clear around and stop just short of the eye line. There's the lid and brows. I'm going to shade this in just to give it a little bit of depth. There's the bottom part of the lid. There's the eyeball. And there is the iris and pupil looking over at us. Cast shadow slightly. And her lip. Brow. So this would be your basic eye, female eye from the side. Now, I'm going to quickly mention some other aspects of cartoon eyes. I mean, I said there were all kinds of shapes. Triangular shapes, there's even square shapes. I've seen square shape eyes. Very graphic with a square shape pupil. You could still squash and stretch and get some great mobility out of that. I've seen cartoon eyes, you know, that suggest a character who's either knocked out with an X in their eye, suggesting that they are unconscious. Sometimes when a character is moving rapidly, you can go from having an eye that is fully open with a glaring pupil, and you can have multiple eyes to give the idea of speed or fast action. This is an effect that you can put in any of your comic scenes. For instance, if a character is knocked backwards, here's the head. There's the nose. Here's the eyes, but you have these other eyes radiating as it travels back in this direction. This optically, when this is shot, gives you the impression of high speed with other portions of the face going in this direction. And then also, way back in the day, it was customary for a character, now we're talking about the early days of animation, where a character would be basically little balls and holes and shapes. The eye would be basically these pie cut shapes. And actually these are still used today in some cartoon series with a little eyebrow over the top. So that's a type of shape that you can use. You can also squash and stretch that. I mean, you get a graphic shape like that, you can graphically squash it and you can stretch it. So anything is possible. And remember, it's cartoons. So cartoon is the art of exaggeration. That was great. Fun lesson. I enjoyed doing that. I hope you learned a great deal about how to draw cartoon eyes. For your assignment, I would like you to practice sketch cartoon eyes. Also, Don't be afraid to get inspired by other resources. If you watch cartoons on the TV, if you watch cartoons at movies, if you see cartoons or comic strips that impress you or inspire you, use those. Make sure that you try all different types of eyes, whether they're angry eyes, they're feminine eyes, clown eyes, funny eyes, or zany eyes. Try all different types and take the information that I've given you and apply that to your next assignment. Sketch some eyes, fill pages with them. And I look forward to seeing you at our next lesson. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.